Welcome back to the episode. Today is June 17th. We're just around a week out from the NBA draft. Um, so we'll talk through a little bit of that. We're also going to just really just talk through the pick and what we think, like what we're going to do with it. What we'd like to have happen. Some players we target that that we prefer to see, or just what we're starting to hear is rumor wise. It's that time of year where you start to see some, potentially see some big time trades pop off. So we'll dive into that. We're also going to talk about some, a few players out of college that we would like to see if they do intend on using the pick. But start these off. I'll kick it over to you. Each want to see your thoughts on, 21st overall pick, some stuff you've been hearing, some of the players you'd like to see fit wise, and jump in.
Yeah, so I think the we are in a very interesting spot, just being coming off the 60-win season, having such a young roster, talented roster, um, and also having the 21st pick, which I think is a good combo to have. I think what we need to really look into now as a franchise is like roster construction to get to this championship. I think we clearly know we have some pieces or the assets to make it work. Just a matter of how we're going to rearrange those. And so, I have a couple of players that I do like. I think both of us have um, hesitations about how maybe a player at the 21st pick could really ultimately help us get to that championship, let's say next year or year after that, if you're going to draft like a young 19-year-old kid. But um, with all things in play, meaning the free agency and trade deadline or trade throughout the summer and
Mhm.
things of that nature. I'm looking at I think a couple of us share players. So I think both of us could probably take Isaiah Evans off the board. Um, the Duke player hit 101 threes. He is I think on the younger side, like 19 or 20 years old. So it makes you wonder because just looking at how fast will he translate into the league. Was those 100 threes, is that going to translate next year? Maybe, maybe not. But he has been in big time games. I think what back to back Elite Eights or Final Fours for that team. So the lights have been bright around them a couple of times, but he's on my list just merely for the fact that when I found this website and I did ascending order for amounts of threes made, he's near the top as far as on that list. And that's kind of my first player off the board here. So I don't know what you how exactly you want to play this, but that's kind of my first player, and then I have a couple other ones here. But I think roster construction is ultimately what we need to do with this 21st pick, whether we ultimately end up moving it or whether we ultimately end up finding a diamond in the rough or somebody falls to us, whatever that might be. We just have to think how can we use this to get more. Get more.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, so that there's definitely a couple guys that you prefer to see there. I think what would be tough about the draft is, I think like one guy, like, so I think Isaiah Evans would be a great pick, and it's kind of interesting with him. Like, see him all the way in the lottery. You also see him all the way in the second round.
Mm-hmm.
There's a guy like that I also have. Cameron Carr, good player, shoot the ball, play defense. You've seen him as high as 13th. Seen him as like mid to late first round, to where I think, like you said, I mean, I think overall, just for me, it's like, you just want to kind of find somebody that can contribute. If you're going to use that pick, you want to find somebody that can contribute immediately. And not so much, have like a project. And I don't know. I just think like I would just kind of prefer it to be somebody that, can maybe play the wing as well. You can be more interchangeable, not really even interested in like smaller guards, combo guard type guys, because I just feel like, I don't think that can be like a consistent punch that we're looking for that we, this team needs. As to why, like I think wouldn't mind the pick got traded. To where it's just like maybe want to kind of see we can trade up, maybe get a little bit more of a proven player to help contribute immediately, maybe, or just go get a proven guy. Given what a lot of these teams want to do in the NBA or in the NBA right now, as far as just making moves to their teams as well.
Yeah. No, I think very rarely do you see a player even in the 20s be that impactful year one. Um, and then you're asking for somebody to come in, and we're looking for not just impact on a bad team, we're looking for specific impact on a good team.
Yeah.
I think I think that is harder to come by, but if you can find a good fit, it could be prime. And I think that kind of takes me to my next player. We both would probably be happy and want to keep the pick if this were to happen. Another player that you see kind of on like a 8 to 10 pick window, and that's our beloved Yaxel, the 2025-2026 champion at Michigan. So I think he is,
Yeah.
if they're available, I think if he's there available, you turn a card in immediately and don't ask no questions. I think he
Hmm.
can come in and play sound minutes for what we need and give us a lot of versatility. Um, I wouldn't want him to be a primary ball handler in the league, but he could start break if he needed him to. He can hit the three. He can play a little bit of post type player. He's a pretty solid defender, and more so, I think the biggest thing about somebody like him is, and it sounds cliche and it sounds whatever. I do think he buys in and he wants to win. I think that's harder to come by than almost anything else. That somebody wants to come in and compete and wants to come in and win. And I think those are off the charts for his sliding scale as far as that goes. So that'd be pie in the sky number one guy. If he was available, I would take him. But also, we're biased when that comes to that. But uh,
Yeah.
I've seen him as
That
high as like 10, and I've seen him. Um, actually, haven't seen him go past us in the draft, but I've seen him somewhere in the early 20s. So
okay.
another 10 or 11 spot window.
Yeah. Yeah, I think and he'd be interesting too, because like I mean that'd be like okay, Tobias, and you're moving on from him. That'd be a pick. If that was if that were to be something that would happen, and then you still just kind of have. So I think like the more of the bigger need might be, or like how I guess how you choose to address that too, or like what I'm saying, like trying to give like you know Kane a running mate or like, more of a proven scorer, where it's like if we do that, do they want to get like a CJ McCollum or somebody like that?
Mhm.
So that's an interesting one. But I think one of the players that I'm looking at, and I think this is kind of one that's a little more layered, kind of very likely. I'm just kind of looking at, a couple of different angles with this guy in particular. His name is Jaden Quaintance. Um, Played at Arizona State as a freshman. It's probably where most of like his highlights are of just like what he's been able to do. He didn't play much at Kentucky. Averaged 5 points and 5 rebounds. Didn't play a ton last year. But I mean, I think it is really hypothetically speaking that Jalen Duren is traded before the draft, or there's something that kind of happens during the draft. But what I like about Quaintance is, he plays similar to Jalen Duren, but he already has a jump shot that can be developed into something more consistent. I think he has a little bit more of an offensive game, like a versatile offensive game, while also being able to catch lobs, and be very good in the pick and roll. Where with Duren, we've kind of seen he's kind of limited to the points where we're all concerned about how much money he could get. Um, so this is more of like a pick to kind of throw out there where I think it could give us more cap flexibility going forward. I do think this is a guy that can be like a plug and play. A little bit of risk there with the injury. The kid's coming off an ACL. We did play a little bit last year. Um, that just gives us a little more flexibility to really upgrade that too. Isaiah Stewart expand more into like a 30 plus minute player.
Mhm.
Um, And yeah, I mean, just give us, make a little more, doing a little more upgrades. Trey Murphy, Tyler Hero, like you kind of talk about guys like that you can really target as far as trying to upgrade the team overall. So I don't know. I think that's
Yeah.
one a little far fetched, but
No, I'm not mad at that at all because I think that is what a successful team seems to do in modern basketball. Not to say that we're on, but I think it does scare me to drop a $200 million check in front of Duran when you look at the Aidens and shit of recent nature where the big guy just kind of flares out and the game just it it just kind of their game just gets stunted. It seems, and then they lose a little juice and jumping and whatever midway through that contract. And next thing you know, you're paying a dude $40 million a year to give you 10 and 10. So I think
Yeah.
those type of things do scare me. And keeping that young juice. I hate to say this comparison, but it's kind of like if you have the rest of your team filled out, the center can kind of be like a running back in the NFL, where you can find somebody to hold it down, rebound, run the floor, dunk. You know,
I mean,
if you're paying the rest of the roster.
you
So
look at like, I mean, look at Doncic. I mean, he's throwing to Jackson Hayes, Daniel Gafford.
mhm.
Hey, we got a guy that is good, if not better, that is going to be able to really take. He's going to be able to elevate guys just as well as I think. So I think a guy like Jaden Quaintance being a freshman, come off the bench, give you 6 and 4, develop. He might be a guy in a couple years. You know what I'm saying? Where he just kind of gives you some more flexibility. Right now, like I like
Yeah.
Duran. He's 22, but
And it's
it just
trading the chips in and going more for, like you said, you're not losing him completely. You're getting this young center, and then you're going all in that backcourt with Hero or whoever it might be. So
right.
you're locking in. No, so I ain't mad at that at all. So I think first pick, first time around, I said Isaiah Evans the best shooter in the draft. Last one, Yaxel, true Michigan fan. You know what that is. Um, Next one, those are both if we're keeping it. This one is kind of more, and you shit all over this player earlier, but I'm still gonna say him. And that's Malik Thomas, and that's I think this is my argument. I want to say I think you are right with the small guards, and it is tough transition. So I want to lay that out there. But what I would say is he Akoff, Darius Akoff soaked up so much of that spotlight and the sun of that team that the handful of times I did watch him, this kid was getting off. It just happened to be 8 to 10 points less than old boy was getting, and didn't
Yeah.
remove a couple of the 50 pieces. So I think that's where I look at 80. Shot 41% from three, hit 82 of them. Off ball damn near the whole time. Because he had to kind of play the behind in Akoff's spotlight. So those are all kind of things I'm thinking positive, but also more importantly, I think he might be, if you're going to keep him, I think it's a kind of high risk, like a high risk, high reward type of deal. Because if he does pan out and he just wasn't as good as Akoff, then I think you kind of fell into something like a good kind of one of them Kentucky type, Calipari type, where
Oh
one
yeah.
went under the radar because the other one shined so bright, which always happened over around there.
Okay. Yeah.
And that's kind of where I'm coming with that. And then I think ultimately, if you are going to move it, I think people could get excited about him on a young piece, a young point guard, hit 100 threes in college as secondary option.
Yeah.
And kind of go from there. But I do agree if
Yeah.
he
Yeah.
and it would just be that backcourt would be so loaded with
No, for
players.
sure. It's tough because there is like the Tyrese Maxeys and like the De'Aaron Foxes, but then there's also like the Ty Washingtons, like the guy. You know what I'm saying? Like he's, I know, and the track record crazy, but there's also kind of them guys where I'm like, you just don't know. That's just my only thing. It's like these guys, if they're not
Brandon
doing
Knights. The Brandon.
what? Yeah, I mean, there's a couple but like I said, you got a couple that were like they were solid rotational guys, but there's
For sure.
also some that just really really didn't pan out. But yeah, I just feel like sometimes the small guards got to do something spectacular, or else like yeah, I mean they just kind of tend to blend in. But I do see what you're saying. I mean, Risk could be a guy to where he could be. I mean, if be an off guard and can kind of just be can kind of turn into a 15, 20 game guy in a couple years. I think you agree with this too. It's just like, he's 19. You know what I mean? It's like, is
Yeah,
that
he's a young boy.
like, what are we expecting from, we going to get Dylan Harper from him in the playoff? You know what I'm saying? Like, not likely.